Hello and welcome to Crafting with Jane. Today I thought that we would do an Eclipse card. Now there's lots of different ways of doing Eclipse cards, and I've done triple layer cards and things before, and I've stamped across the image that then goes onto there, and I've stamped across here, and you always get like a little white shadow part, because even if you use it on a positioning tool, it's really difficult with the ridges. So I thought I found a slightly easier way of doing it. So you know me and trying to find things, easier ways of doing things. And what you need to do to get your frame to start off with, and you want quite a fat frame, you know, you don't want a little tiny, you know, weeny little frame, you want a fat frame. And I've used the stitched rectangles. You can use any shape you want. If you've got sort of hexagonals or diamonds or you know, interesting shapes, use those. This is what I had. And to get them exactly the same size, what I did was I have taped them together. So it means that I can cut out several of them and I know they're going to be exactly the same size. So I have just coloured and stamped a panel. So on your, this is a 7x5 card base. So I've just taken a mat, which is 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way round. Now, this I have just coloured in with alcohol markers, done a bit of stamping sort of round it, just was playing around with some ideas. This is a stamp set which I have had for probably 10 odd years. It was originally a Spellbinders one called Garden Collection, and it was free in a card making and papercraft magazine back in 2015. So 15, and we're 2023, yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. But like everything, I keep things in boxes, and my motto, as you know now, is to use what you've got. So I thought I would just stamp a few of them out, play around with it a little bit, and I've got this image. So I am now going to take this frame that I've got, and you can stamp whatever you want. So stamp a lovely picture, make sure that there's sort of a focal point in the center, and then you're going to put your die in through on the center like that. So I have got my die cutting machine here, so we can do this. Let me just, I'm going to have to move it again. I'm going to put that in underneath so you can see. And I'm just going to position this in on here. I always try and offset it just slightly, because when you're doing something that's square, if you have it completely flat, it will go clonk, 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 and sometimes it doesn't cut on that edge as well. So if you just offset it a bit, make sure that you've got your die centered as you want it. And I think that's about right. Looks right to me. Then we can put this on top, and we're going to run it through. So we are die cutting the panel out. We're not stamping over layers, but we're die cutting it out like this. I can then just take that out. Make sure it's, yes, it has. Let's get this out of the way. We don't need to use that. I'm just going to put it over here for now. Okay, so now we have our die cut, and I can now take this out. And I can take these pieces out. I've got to make sure that I take them out quite carefully, because where I've got them on the tape, this I have de-tacked, so it should be absolutely, excuse me, I'm just doing it gently on a couple of pieces, but it should come out just perfectly. Say take a little bit of time if you need to. So that then goes there, and this is the centerpiece. And again, I'm only doing it gently because I've got my tape on there, but it means that I can do several of them. Because I've taped it together, it's not going anywhere. So you need quite a few pieces of tape. So if we then take our card base, so I am going to put this in on here, but I'm not going to do a mat because it is literally just 1/4 of an inch smaller. So to save me doing a mat, what I'm going to do is I am just going to give myself a little mat on here by using, you can use any, these are just water-based permanent markers, as you know, they're the Posca pens. I think you can get them anywhere. And this time I'm going to do it in silver. I've got silver, grey, black and white on here, and it's quite nice rather than having to do a border or a mat. And if you're trying to be a little bit more frugal, you can do it by just adding a little bit of colour. So I'm just going to take it along here. And just mark it down. Now I've got a ruler that's got a metal edge, only because I find that easier. It's entirely up to you. You can use whatever ruler you've got, but I find that with a metal edge it means that you get a very nice, clean, straight line. So I'm just going to put that all the way around the corner, and it just gives a little bit of interest right on the edge and makes it look like it's been matte. So you can use a black marker, you can use any of your alcohol markers, any colour you fancy. You know, it's entirely up to you really. So I'm just putting that across like that. Okay, so we've now got, and then all I do is I will clean that edge up so that then it's not going to mark with a different edge afterwards. You know, a bit like your pens and things like that. Once you've used an ink pad, you always tend to try and do clean it up nicely afterwards. So you can see now you've got a nice little border on there. So we can glue this piece down because that's going to be fine. And you can see mine is slightly off. If you want things absolutely straight, you obviously can measure it. I don't, because at the end of the day, I always turn around and say that, you know, a handmade card is a handmade card. You don't want it to look as if it's been machine made and is absolutely precise. You know, if you worry about those things, then absolutely fine. Make sure that you, you know, you can measure it or make sure it's a little bit more accurate. So this is going to come down on here. And I say I've just done this on a 7x5 card because I happen to have a 7x5 mount on it. So that's our outside piece. We then have our next piece, which is this piece to go in here. But I have, as I said to you, I have cut 1, 2, 3. I've cut 3 just standard. They're in thick white cardstock because I want them to stick together nicely. So I'm just sticking those layers together first. Now you can use foam pads, dimensionals and things if you want to put them up, but I find that if you cut these, and you can do them in whatever colour and scraps you want, they're not going to be shown. But I prefer doing them in cardstock because it gives a very neat edge. And that's what I want for this. I don't want any sort of foam pads, dimensionals and things sticking up out of the way. I want it all to come beautifully, seamlessly together. So I've done 3 of these like this, which is going to go perfectly in like that, and then this one is going to come in on top. So that then gives us our, what they call the Eclipse. And as I say, it's such an easier way of doing all of these sort of layers and things like that, because it's it means that it comes absolutely perfectly where you want it. So that's going to come like that, and you can see you've got this lovely, or I hope you can, it's probably more difficult to see on camera, but you have this lovely edge coming up through like that with the stitching around it. And then this piece can go in here like that, in on the center, and that goes down at the bottom. Now, if you want it to stand out a bit more, so you can see that that doesn't stand out as much as it possibly could, you can take your, okay, so let's do this. You can take your pen and you can just do a cross through on the edge. Whoops, I was just about to do it with glue. You can do it across on the edge. So again, I'm doing it with my ruler. As I'm using the same colour, it doesn't really matter. And I'm just doing it with the silver. And I'm just going across on the edge. On each one of them. Now, if you do it in something like black, it is going to stand out even more. But for me, I wanted it to be quite subtle, because I think that that goes well with the images. Okay, so that's done that bit. And then I'm going to do the inside of this one, the little one inside first. So let me just do that one. And it's quite easy because you can see where you're going, because this has got the stitching on it. If you haven't got dies, you can use a craft knife and a ruler and just measure your distances. You can use different shapes. So if you haven't got rectangles, you could use squares, you could use circles, you could use anything you've really got. It's a matter of, as I say, using what we've got. You know, try using a stamp set you've never used before, or you've had for such a long time, that's in a drawer and you haven't got out. Just take it out and have a little go and see what you can do with it. Okay, so we have this has got to come in here like that. Now you can see that it comes out a little bit. Whoops, does help if I have it the right way around. Okay, so that's going to come in here. This has got to come in on the center like that. Okay, so I'm going to put this one in first, because I say this is quite thick. And again, you can put any of these up with foam pads or dimensionals, or you know, foam tape if you want any more height. But as I said, I like to do it with solid frames, because I find that it then sticks in better. Now I need to make sure that I've got this right. Yes, I have. So let's tuck that in nice and neatly into that space so it sticks out nicely. And then this one is going to come in on the center. And I think it's a very nice sort of subtle look. You know, it's not sort of too in your face. You can have it in your face if you want to. You know, you can make it as bright as you want. So I've got to tuck this and push this in a bit, because this is just a bit tight on here. Just run my finger through. That's better. That's coming in nicely. Stuck that one in there. Just Make sure that's got down there. If you want it to come in nicely, and you can then see, hopefully, let me just stand up and see. Yes, you can see that edge on there, but you can see all of the dimension in on there, but it's very subtle. And I think it looks really nice, particularly giving that edge round there. And because I've now got this, I can now do several others and just do different styles, different cards. As I say, if you're doing it on a smaller size card, use a smaller one. But I think that that makes a really, really pretty look. I hope you can see the silver catching on there, because that really makes it look beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, please stay safe and well. Please be kind, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.